Alright, so this is my official prediction video for the Dillian Whyte versus Tyson Fury fight, or I guess it's billed as Tyson Fury versus Dillian Whyte. It's going to go down this month, and yeah, I just thought I'd give my thoughts on it. So, yep, you read it right. I do see Dillian Whyte winning this fight. You know what I mean? And I know this is the unpopular opinion, and this is my second unpopular opinion for you, but I really do think that styles make fights, and I think stylistically this is a dangerous fight for Tyson Fury, and I'm going to explain why. So, when Tyson Fury fought Deontay Wilder the third time, I thought, okay, Fury's going to win this trilogy because, let's face it, Wilder, he went up in weight for whatever reason, right? Which I don't understand to this day, no pun intended, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't understand, like, he gassed out in the first fight, and he was barely on his feet in the second fight, excuse me, right? So we decided it would be a good idea to get bigger and to bulk up, right? I mean, that just doesn't make sense to me, you know what I mean? I think Deontay Wilder fights better when he's at a much leaner weight, sort of like what he was at when he fought Tyson Fury the first time, and Luis Ortiz the first time as well, right? So it was very bizarre to see that. Also Wilder was just, I don't know, it looked like he just didn't learn from the first fight. So I knew at that point that, yeah, Wilder was going to lose that fight for sure. Now, however, now that Tyson Fury is fighting Dillian Whyte, I'm saying, okay, now this time I think Dillian Whyte's going to win, right? And I'll tell you why. So, Dillian Whyte, in my opinion, stylistically is a bad matchup for Fury. You know what I mean? I think Dillian Whyte is kind of being overlooked in this matchup. A lot of people look at the Povetkin loss and obviously the Anthony Joshua loss, but, like I said, styles make fights. Povetkin is a different fighter than Tyson Fury stylistically. And in terms of that Povetkin loss, like, that's a legitimate win for Alexander Povetkin, but Dillian Whyte was winning the fight up until he got knocked out. He knocked Povetkin down twice in the same round, right? He was working the body effectively. And Povetkin, he just used his experience, and he was able to land a perfectly timed uppercut in the pocket, right? And also, people don't realize how good Povetkin actually was. I mean, his only losses at the time were to Vladimir Klitschko in what many considered to be a controversial and dirty fight, right? And his second loss was to Anthony Joshua, right? And obviously that was when he was a bit older, you know what I mean? But, I mean, it's still a legitimate loss for him, right? And he beat other guys like Ruslan Chagayev, Hasim Rahman, right? Marco Huck, Marzius Vach, and many other good names on his record. So Povetkin isn't a bad fighter, right? And there's no real, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still a loss for Dillian Whyte, but what I'm saying is that was a perfectly timed punch against an experienced veteran and former champion. So, yeah, in terms of the Anti-Joshua loss as well, look, AJ and Fury, they're stylistically different fighters, right? Anthony Joshua is he's different in that he's better, or he's quicker with his hands in terms of, like, shortening his punches and, throwing, like, punches in the pocket, right? That's sort of why he was able to give Dillian Whyte so many problems, was because of the power and the aggression that Joshua brought to the table, and the fact that he was so good at exchanging with Dillian Whyte in the pocket without getting caught too many times, right? And also, we already know that Anthony Joshua punches harder than Tyson Fury, okay? I don't want to hear any of this talk that Tyson Fury somehow punches harder than Anthony Joshua, right? I mean, Fury even came out and stated himself that he punches harder than AJ, but I don't believe that. But anyway, now that we look at this fight, though, I'm going to go through the reasons why, or I guess how Dillian Whyte can beat Tyson Fury, or why I just think he's a bad matchup for Tyson Fury. So let's get started. So number one, the body shots. Dillian Whyte is a good body puncher, right? And he may even be the best body puncher in the division, right? And not only that, but he's an extremely hard body puncher as well, right? I mean, you look at the guys he's faced, and he really winds up those shots to the body, those shots to the body, excuse me. He winds up these left hooks and uppercuts that, to the liver. And, that's why he's called the body snatcher, is because, he snatches that body, right? So against Tyson Fury, who has gone to the body of Tyson Fury, right? I mean, Vladimir Klitschko didn't. Deontay Wilder did at times, but he's not known for being a hard or skilled body puncher, right? You know, the only guy who actually went to Tyson Fury's body in his entire career was John McDermott, right? And we all know how that fight played out, you know, the first time around, not the second time. John McDermott clearly won that fight, or he should have won the fight. It was a gift decision given to Tyson Fury. But, you know, John McDermott was able to beat up Tyson Fury for the majority of the fight simply by going to the body, you know? And he was able to outwork and gas Tyson Fury out in the 7th round. So, you know, that's a big indicator that Tyson Fury may not do so well with body shots. And look, I'm not going to base it off that too much because Tyson Fury was very young back then. He was only like 21 or 20 or something like that, right? He was a very young fighter and very inexperienced fighter. But at the same time, Dillian Whyte is a better fighter than John McDermott, right? He punches harder, for one. He's a better body puncher, for another thing, right? And he's able to counterpunch a lot better than John McDermott, in my opinion. And guys, let's be honest, who would win in a fight between Dillian Whyte and John McDermott, right? I guarantee you that Dillian Whyte would knock out John McDermott, you know, prime versus prime. So, that being said, I know Tyson Fury is a lot more matured now. He's a better fighter overall now, right? His body is developed into a more skilled and talented and natural heavyweight boxer. But at the same time, like, I still think that he's never been tested to the body, even at a high level like that, right? Because Deontay Wilder did go to the body at times, but like I said, he's not a good body puncher, Deontay Wilder, while Dillian Whyte is. So if Dillian Whyte can just, you know, work that body like a heavy bag and really wind up those left hooks and uppercuts straight to the body of Tyson Fury, then I actually think he has a good chance of wearing Tyson Fury down in the later rounds. So that's one reason. Now on to number 2, counterpunching. So Dillian Whyte is a better counterpuncher than Deontay Wilder, in my opinion, right? You know, we've seen this in multiple fights, you know, in the Povetkin fights, the Marzias Vok fight, the Oscar Rivas fight, the Derek Chisora fights. You know, it shows that he's a good body puncher, counterpuncher, and he's a hard counterpuncher as well. So Tyson Fury, when he fought Deontay Wilder, the main reason Fury was able to beat Wilder is because he kept him on his back foot, and that's the blueprint to beating Deontay Wilder, is to keep him on his back foot. That's why I picked Anthony Joshua back in 2018 to beat Deontay Wilder, is because of Anthony Joshua's aggression and the power that he would have brought to the table, right? So, you know, when Tyson Fury fought Deontay Wilder, the first time he got the tactics wrong because he wanted to try and outbox Wilder, but he ended up getting dropped twice. The second and third fight, even though the fights were dirty, which I agree with, he was still a lot more aggressive in those fights, and that's how he was able to really pressure and beat Deontay Wilder and beat him up and knock him out eventually, right? So that being said, you know, Wilder never really counterpunched Fury, and when he did, that's when he would drop him. Right? I mean, we saw what happened in the 4th round of their second fight when Deontay Wilder countered with a big right hand, right? And Fury got dropped by it. So you look at Dillian Whyte, and people say, oh, but Dillian Whyte doesn't punch as hard as Deontay Wilder. Yeah, but he's more skillful, and he's got a really hard left hook. You know what I mean? I don't think Dillian Whyte's left hook is that far behind Deontay Wilder's right hand in terms of power, right? I really don't. And here's the thing. You see the times that Deontay Wilder did knock down Tyson Fury, he never landed on Fury's chin, right? It would always be on the forehead. And in my experience, I would much rather take a punch to the head or to the forehead than I would on the chin, because, you know, when you take a punch to the head, yes, you get buzzed a bit, but you can sort of still recover from it somewhat. Getting hit on the chin is a whole different ballgame, right? In my experience. So I guarantee you, if Deontay Wilder landed those same shots that he knocked down Fury with on Tyson Fury's chin, I guarantee you that it would have rocked Tyson Fury a lot more. I'm not saying he would have knocked Fury out for sure, but I'm saying that it definitely would have caused Fury a lot more problems than what he actually dealt with. And we look at Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte's a more accurate puncher than Deontay Wilder, right? And he's an accurate counterpuncher. I mean, just look what he did to Anthony Joshua in the second round of their fight. He was able to rock Anthony Joshua by countering him as he was coming in, right? And that was one of the only times that Anthony Joshua's been rocked in his career, right? And, you see Tyson Fury states that he's going to come out way more aggressive in this fight. And if he does that, then, I do think he's going to get countered for sure. And I can see Dillian Whyte landing a big left hook on Fury's chin and, knocking him down. And if not knocking him down, just rocking him in general, right? So I think that's another factor to look into, is that Dillian Whyte may not punch as hard as Deontay Wilder, but he still has power and he's still dangerous with that left hook. And he's a more accurate puncher than Deontay Wilder. And that's pretty much it. I just think the body punching and the counter punching of Dillian Whyte is what's going to really, give Fury problems in this fight. Dillian Whyte, in my opinion, is a much better defensive fighter than Wilder. He's a much, he has a higher fighting IQ, in my opinion. He's a better counter puncher, but a better body puncher. He has more tools in his arsenal, meaning he doesn't just rely on one punch to end a fight. And I think Tyson Fury is going to find himself in a lot of trouble in this fight. So, yeah, I'm going Dillian Whyte with this fight. I think he's gonna win it by a stoppage in maybe the later rounds, right? The only way I see Dillian Whyte losing is if he just doesn't show up to the fight and is just, slow and just, he's not on point and he decides, to try and outbox Tyson Fury or something. That's the only way I see Dillian Whyte losing. But, if Dillian Whyte's able to work the body, if he's motivated, if he can counter Fury as Fury's coming in, and if he can keep Fury out of the clinches or not let Fury bully him in the clinches, then I think this is Dillian Whyte's fight to win. So, yeah, I'm going with the underdog on this one again, and that's that. In terms of who I want to win, there's not really anyone I want to win in this fight. I mean, you guys know that I'm not really a big fan of Tyson Fury. I'm not even really a big fan of Dillian Whyte either, though, right? You know what I mean? But I just think styles make fights, and I think Dillian Whyte's got it, right? The thing is, I don't know. If Tyson Fury wins, I'm not going to be upset, because if Fury wins and say, he fights the winner of Joshua and Usyk, then that will be a bigger fight than probably Dillian Whyte versus the winner of Joshua versus Usyk. However, if Dillian Whyte beats Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua beats Alexander Usyk, then that would set up a good rematch with Anthony Joshua and Dillian Whyte, because, you had them fight back in 2016 when they were pretty inexperienced, but then you have them fighting back, or in, 2022 or 2023 for a unification title bout, right? And that's something that people want to see, right? And so it would build up such a huge rematch. But I guess if Tyson Fury also wins and Anthony Joshua or Usyk wins their fight, then that would be a big fight for all of them. So, I don't know. Like I said, there's not really one person I want to win this fight. I just think Dillian Whyte's going to get it done. And I could see him getting a stoppage. I don't know necessarily in the early rounds or the later rounds, but I do see Dillian Whyte. If he takes this fight seriously and if he goes in with the right game plan, then I do see him winning this fight. So, yeah, my money's on Dillian Whyte, and we'll see. We'll see how the fight goes. But anyway, let me know what you guys think. I can already see people getting angry at me in the comments of this video, if they find it or whatever. Look, it's just an opinion. If Fury wins on the night, I'm not going to care, right? That's fine. I'm not saying it's impossible for Fury to win this fight, I only have this fight as a 70-30 or 60-40 type of fight, right? But I'm not saying it's a definite win for Dillian Whyte. I'm just saying that styles make fights. I think Wilder is a good matchup for Tyson Fury, and I think Dillian Whyte is a bad matchup for Tyson Fury. And the fact that Wilder was able to give Fury a tough fight in their third one makes me think that Dillian Whyte could really cause Tyson Fury more problems. So, yeah, we'll see how the fight plays out, but that's that. Anyway, hope you guys have a good day. And yeah, take care and peace.